Welcome to the Mindful Healers podcast with
Dr. Jessie Mahoney.
and Dr. Ni-Cheng Liang.
We are here to help you learn to pause and be present, awaken your breath, and harness the ripple effects of mindfulness for radiant health.
We get you. We know you. We are you.
We have both been successful on the surface, yet struggling underneath. We have both had cluttered brains, been overwhelmed, and exhausted.
We're healers who have found solutions and want to share them with you.
Join us here to discover a better way.
Welcome to today's podcast episode on productivity and mindfulness. A reminder that our podcast is not medical advice. We have a special guest with us here today, Dr. Serene Shereef, a trauma and acute care surgeon and host of Mindfulness and Productivity Systems podcast, who's also a mindfulness and productivity coach and mom of 3.
Today, the three of us are going to have a mindful conversation about an unlikely topic: how to be more productive and manage your time when taking advantage of mindfulness. We hope to share 3 perspectives from high-achieving physician busy moms about how mindfulness has helped each of us and how you can incorporate it into your life as well.
Our intention for today's podcast is that you'll learn to utilize mindfulness in aspects of your life that are more task-oriented.
We hope you will discover how being mindful can help you be more productive, and that intentions are a way to focus, simplify, and declutter. Some takeaways from today's episode are that time management is often choosing to not do things, and that you can manage your time by managing your focus, your energy, and your mind. To start, we wanted to share our guest's background with you and have her explain a little bit about who she is and how she got into this work. And I will start by saying that I met Serene as a guest on her podcast, and we spent quite a bit of time talking about mindfulness and productivity and things such as clutter buckets and figuring out how to bring a mindful perspective to a busy life. And so I'm delighted to have an additional conversation with her today. Do you want to introduce yourself and how you got into this work?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and really excited to continue the conversation. So I'm Serene Shereef, and I always joke that I became a mindfulness and productivity coach because of everything else that was happening in my life. I have been a huge fan of productivity ever since I was a kid, really, because there was always one more thing that I wanted to do. And so in order to balance everything, you got to figure out how to maximize your time. And over time, I became really obsessed with habit building as a way to automate things in my life. And again, really just connecting to all of the tools of productivity. But I came to a time in my life where it was a busy life with being a mom, being a trauma acute care surgeon, being, a wife and community member, daughter, sister, all of the hats that we wear. And I really was struggling with just feeling like I was doing it all right. I was doing everything, but I definitely wasn't enjoying myself. And I came to a place where I realized, it didn't matter. Like, I was functioning at really my most productive, utilizing every second, trying to, multitask and do 20 things at the same time and all the things. But I really wasn't enjoying myself. I didn't feel like I was present in any of the moments. My work took up a huge chunk of my time and energy. And I just, got really burned out. And in fact, I actually resigned from my job just to feel like I could even catch a breath. I really was not in a healthy place for myself. So, that's when I realized, I wonder if maybe being productive isn't trying to squeeze more things, because I literally felt like my brain was running, like 20 different, how you have like 20 tabs open on your computer screen. That is how it felt. I was clicking between things, and I was, trying to do stuff. And then when I'm at my kids' programs, I'm trying to plan something else, so I wasn't present anywhere. And as I discovered really more about myself and what I wanted, and just bringing clarity to my life, I realized the thing that was missing in my productivity journey was mindfulness, was having clarity, was being present. Because what's the point in doing something and actually like getting to the finish line and you aren't even present, right? So I started using different mindfulness tools to see, could I, how do I make things better? How do I do things, and be more productive? And as I went through the journey, again, same thing, well, maybe it means doing less. Maybe, even if I love 3 things, like if I only have time for 2, why am I really hurting myself by saying I'm going to do all 3 and not enjoy any of it? So yeah, it's been quite a journey, but I think I found each of these steps really by embracing the discomfort and saying, okay, I am 100% productive and this sucks. How do I really enjoy it more?
That's so wonderful. I think so many people who are overachievers and super productive, we think if we could just learn some other new trick or tip, we would be better at time management. And I hear from so many people that they're not good at managing time. And yet what they're trying to do is 48 hours of things in 24 hours. And so that focus and clarity about what you want to accomplish, and then actually being present for whatever you're accomplishing, that actually changes everything. You said missing the moments. And I remember thinking that that's what I was doing. I would be with my kids, but I would be making lists and planning vacations and doing something else and getting my work done and charting while cooking dinner and doing all the things. And so I was missing all the moments.
Mm-hmm.
And that mindfulness allows you to sort of be in the moment as well, the one you're actually in, and that can lead to things falling off that are less important.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And the other aspect of mindfulness that it took a while for me to really implement it is the self-compassion, is the non-judgment, is really just accepting the moment for what it is. Because we want the moment to be different. I mean, not all moments are great. Okay. I mean, let's just be real. But what if that moment is the way it is? Because we are, maybe there's something to learn from it. Maybe just going through that discomfort will help us get to that next moment. And I always used to want to make it better and make it go away. And when I learned to lean into it and say, this is hard and it's not really what I thought it was going to be, what I discovered was, first of all, for myself, when I'm willing to live in the moment of discomfort, I appreciate the joy, all of the other emotions that we all seek so much more. But sort of a strategic byproduct, or, something that I never expected, is my children started to lean into it. Like I saw them understand, okay, yeah, this is hard. I want to make it go away, but what if we're just here right now? That it's okay that every moment isn't like, bells and whistles and lights. So that was a huge lesson, I think, for all of us.
I think allowing the brain and the body to be in the same place at the same time and really embodying that presence, even through discomfort, helps us get through the discomfort in a healthier, more skillful way.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask you a question, Serene. So basically at surface level, when you hear the words mindfulness and productivity, it can initially be construed as, isn't that kind of an oxymoron? But actually, reminding everyone that mindfulness is paying attention on purpose to the present moment without judgment. Mindfulness and productivity together, it's actually not an oxymoron, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is so true. And we do, we don't appreciate that truth as much. One of the things that I hear frequently are, well, I don't have time right now to be mindful. I'm going to just get all the things on my to-do list done first. And then when I have time, then yes, I would love to meditate for 30 minutes and I'd love to do this, that, and the other. And I remind people, first of all, our to-do list is never ending. It's infinite. We will never finish it. So waiting to live your life or do anything when your to-do list is over is really sort of like the first myth of productivity. And then the second part of it is when we are truly present, we're able to have better control, awareness of our focus, our mind, and our energy. And really, productivity is about being focused and in the moment. Productivity is how do we get more done in less time, but also how do we get it done to the best of our abilities? And when we are trying to live the myth of multitasking, and I'll confess, I mean, I believed it too. Yes, if I could do laundry, dinner, my charts, and help my kids with their homework all at the same time, I'm saving time. But we're not really focused on any of it. Dinner's burning and laundry gets, forgotten, and the kids' homework is all over the place, and, all of these things, right? So I think that there's definitely more data out there and a lot more awareness that multitasking is actually, you are taking time away from your life. You are not, being any more productive by doing it that way. So being mindful, being clear about what we want, and then truly being focused on it. And how many times have we done something where we procrastinate and we struggle and we are trying to do so many things, right, to get this one piece of work done. And then you take a break and you come and sit down, in 30 minutes, you're done. So that's, I think, what mindfulness actually gives you, is it allows you to bring all of your internal energy, your focus, your mind, your internal resources, really, and get work done. So you're not just wallowing in that and making it a 5-hour job instead of 30 minutes.
So I would love to just have us all reflect on how we have used mindfulness as a productivity tool in our own lives. And I think we've shared a bit here, but I have a sense that we have 3 women physicians here who practice mindfulness and are productive, and yet we approach it in different ways. And so offering different ways and different perspectives so that each person who is listening can adapt these thoughts to their own lives in a way that works for them. Nichang, do you want to start?
Sure. So for me, mindfulness practice is, and I've mentioned this before in prior podcasts, is part of my scaffold of support. And so coming into every day, I have part of my ritual in the mornings for getting ready is to do my mindfulness practice. It's already built in as a habit. And then the rest of the day, because of the scaffold already being there and polished, like Serene had mentioned, it allows me to focus. So on a busy clinical day when I'm seeing 24 patients in clinic, I'm able to move with intentionality and to show up with presence, and at the same time close my notes while the patient is sitting there, while still maintaining eye contact and presence and using mindful communication. So for me, it sets up the tone for the rest of the day, and it helps me show up as my authentic self in a way that is open and receptive. And that helps me to enjoy all of the 24 different patient encounters I have for the day. It also, on my non-clinical days, helps me to remind myself to rest so that I can be more present in all of the different aspects of my life, not just clinically, but as a mom, and also as a daughter, a wife, a teammate for my dragon boat team. So yeah, so that's how mindfulness has become an integral way where I can live my life to the fullest.
Beautiful. Serene, how about you? How is mindfulness a productivity tool for you?
Um, and I love what Nietzsche shared, right? It really is just a part of life. It is how we start our days. It is how we spend time through the day. I do actually do check-ins with myself, with my body. And there are days where I feel, I'm really tired today. I'm kind of just dragging myself and listening and knowing when I need to take rest, etc. In the past, that wasn't really me. I used to grab my coffee number 3 or 4, and maybe I need a little cookie to go with it or some other extra sugar. And I used to really push myself, regardless of what my body told me. It felt like I did the thing that was on my calendar. And it really was not productive in any way. It took a long time for me to realize, okay, well, that's not really working. So now I have enough flex time or white space on my calendar that if there are days that I am tired, I can take the time to rest. Especially the days that I do locum, so there are some weeks that I'm really busy with work and some weeks that I'm off, and so I have time built in for that recovery phase. Especially as I'm getting older, I'm finding I don't bounce back after being on call or having a lot more expectations that I place on myself, just being present. And when you're present with your patients, with work, it does takes a level of energy and focus. And so it's important to give that same time of rest back. The other thing that has helped is just cutting things from my calendar. So I used to, my belief was, okay, if you love something, if that's something you really want to do, then you just find time and you squeeze it in. And what I realized is I'm just one of those people. I like a lot of things. And if I really did everything that I liked, that I wanted to, that people maybe asked of me, I really would have no time for rest. And so I've had to intentionally find the space where I say yes, and intentionally find the space where I say no with compassion, not just for the others, but for myself. So I'm really for the first time enjoying periods of not having things to do. And I think this has truly boosted my productivity and allowed me to do a lot more, just because I know tomorrow you have, that like your afternoon off, or I get to do whatever else that I wanted to do. And so I think that rest is probably one of the most intentional ways you can boost your productivity. And it is important to be mindful on what you say yes and no to.
I love that. And the idea that you can love something and choose not to do it is really beautiful. You can be really good at something and choose not to do it. I see this a lot with people maybe deciding to change up their practice or work less or not keep doing a leadership position. For me, that came up several times. And it's like, you can be really good at it and you can love it and you can also not do it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we're even giving a gift to someone else by allowing them to see if they love it or do it, and that there are seasons for us to do different things and different times. The other thing you mentioned in terms of sort of peeling things off and being mindful is to be mindful of your priorities. And I think we often have everything as kind of equal priority, and that can help you also peel off things you love. But if they're not at the top of your priority list, when there's only 24 hours in a day, and I don't like to make the day be scarce, but just to realize like there are 24, you get to pick how you want to use them without drama. And so when you're clear on your priorities, it becomes much more easeful to decide what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. So when I was thinking about how to answer this, the thought that came up to me was I use mindfulness in a way of being compassionate to myself. I think that's been the most effective tool. And asking that question of what do I need? I'm not someone who actually wakes up and meditates each day. I wake up and ask myself what I need. And some days it's like, do I need to sit and have coffee quietly in the sunshine? Do I need to go get some fresh air and go for a walk? But it was the pause to ask that question and to think about who I was and where I was and do kind of a check-in with myself. What do I need right now? It usually involves a few deep breaths to kind of center myself and figure out where I am. And then the other tool that I know I've mentioned many times on this podcast is, for me, the hand to heart, because I don't really know what I need unless I kind of shut my eyes and do my hand to heart, because otherwise there's so much input and my brain moves so fast that that's my way of sort of tapping and grounding back into mindfulness. And when you start by putting your own oxygen mask on first, as we say, it can help you approach the rest of the day with much more peace and clarity and groundedness. And so that initial moment, and it doesn't even have to, again, be long. I think so many of us say, well, I don't have time to meditate for 30 minutes in the morning, but you do have time to put your hand on your heart and check in with yourself, and getting out of the autopilot of just jumping out of bed and running, and allowing yourself to be human. Because on different days, to me, life looks very different.
Yeah, that's so true. I think when we allow ourselves to really connect to our heart, I think that's one of the biggest lessons I feel I've learned from connecting mindfulness to being human, being productive, all the things that we want to do. It doesn't mean that we have to give up, and run ourselves ragged to do it. So I think that's beautiful. Thanks for sharing.
So I wanted to ask the question now of some practical tools that we can share with the audience to optimize productivity. Serene, do you want to give our
Sure.
listeners some tools?
Yeah, sure. So I would say probably my two favorite tools. One is my daily and weekly check-in. I love to journal because I feel like that's a great way for us to connect to our thoughts. And sometimes, especially after you've done some mindfulness or grounding exercise and you journal, the things that come up, it surprised me. I didn't even realize that I felt that way, or, that was going on in my mind. So I think that journaling is a great tool to build mindfulness, and also to understand what are some things that have come up for us for that day. So I do sort of at the end of the day, kind of a check-in with myself, and then also once a week. And the 3 questions or journaling prompts essentially that I work off of is, one, for the daily check-in, it's, what was I grateful for today? What was something that was amazing? And a lot of times, it's the little things that we sometimes forget, or not pay attention to. But since starting this exercise, actually, I feel like I have been able to connect to some of these quiet moments. Maybe it is, waiting in line for school drop off with my daughter, or maybe it was the 5 minutes extra that I slept in. But there's always something magical in our day and helps us connect to that. And then I also check in. My second prompt is, what was challenging about today? What was something that I really needed to dig in and find my patience? And this also gives me the opportunity to just give a little bit of self-compassion to myself. Like, say I'm running around and it's been a crazy day, and taking a deep breath and saying, that was hard. And, it wasn't quite what I expected, but what do I learn from it? And how do I let it go? Or how do I maybe try something different tomorrow? So it's a great place of reflection for me. And then my last thing that I ask myself is, what is the one thing that I want to focus on tomorrow? Having a focus, like just one focus a day, really has changed the way I approach the day. Because usually before, I used to approach it, okay, these are the 20 things or 5 things even, these are all the things I need to get done today. And then at the end of the day, I kind of like give myself a grade, right? Okay, I did 20% of what I said I was going to. But when I say that I have one focus, right, I start my day saying, okay, this is my one focus. And most of the time, most of us, right, we can finish one thing in a day. And so that day is successful, regardless of whether I finished all the other things that were on my list that were sort of hopeful maybes. but not necessary to my focus for the day. So that has been a huge productivity tool for me. I do a check-in very similar to that once a week as well. It helps me plan focus for the next week. And it's really changed how I use both journaling as well as mindfulness and connection to build that productivity for myself.
I wanted to highlight two things that really resonated that you mentioned was your acknowledgement of the hard, of
Mhm.
when difficulty arises, that you take the intentional, mindful pause to acknowledge that that particular situation was difficult. Um, I think oftentimes there's a tendency for us to want to resist or to even deny the difficulty. And when we hold space for the difficulty in our own lives, that helps us process it sometimes faster, more productively, and it provides a space for us to be able to learn from that, as you had mentioned. And then the other aspect that I heard that really resonated was your intentionality for each day, to have an intention for the day. Despite having the 20 things to do on your to do list, you can still set up an intention for the day. So thank you for sharing those.
Yeah.
What about you, Jesse?
My thought is several are similar, actually. So it's interesting. I just couched the questions in a little bit different way. And so if I know that there's something difficult that I'm planning to do in a day, I always start with some kind of mindful practice, which for me is usually breathing or grounding or yoga. I know for some people it's you're going into a meeting, 5 minutes of like mindfulness in the car. I will often do journaling, like how do I want to show up for this? So it's that intentionality about and for me, I like to tap into feelings. How do I want to feel in this difficult situation ahead? Or asking my future self, what would make me proud if I'm proud of how I show up in this meeting or in this difficult situation, what would that look like? And so it's again pausing and being intentional and purposeful about how you want to show up for the day and what would make you proud. And then the other tool that I find really helpful is clarifying on the to-do list, what is a want to do versus a should want to do. And there's so many things on your should want to do list that maybe you don't have to do. And I would say maybe you don't want to pay your taxes, right? And is it a should want to do? But it is a want to do because the consequences of not doing it are complex and difficult. And so I really do like to put those categories down and say, well, what are sort of things that I think other people are expecting of me, or my brain is just auto putting on this list, and being really intentional about what do I really want to be on that list and why. And that can peel off a lot of things on the list that don't need to be there and create space so that you can really focus and address the things that do need to be on the list. And sometimes even bigger picture, it makes you realize that your life's a bit out of alignment. You're spending all your time on the things you think you should want to do, but you don't actually want to be doing with your life. And so maybe you need to simplify.
For me, I optimize my productivity by building in an intentional mindful break. So before mindfulness came into my life, I would work through lunch. I would try to multitask and answer all the my chart messages and the phone calls and get my charting done from the morning. But now, and over the last several years now, I have been very intentional about actually giving myself permission to take the lunch break, to eat my lunch mindfully, turning off the screens. So I have two screens in my office for EMR and for radiology, and I will purposely hit the off button on both of those screens. And I eat in silence, and I actually look at my food, I taste my food. I enjoy eating this way. And then I take a mindful walk outside. I'm lucky in that I live in San Diego, so I can do this most days of the year. Uh, And my mindful walk is literally a lap around the parking lot. But we have beautiful blue skies a lot of the time, and there's plants and trees and different animals that I notice on my mindful walk. So, all in all, that doesn't take too much time, and it helps me reset myself, to ground myself, to bring online a bit more of the parasympathetic nervous system, that intentional rest in the middle of the day um, is built in, and it helps me be more focused, productive, and present for the second half of clinic.
So many good tips shared today. And I think our overall message, I just want to reflect on rest, really important, white space, really important, focus and intention, really important. I heard the theme of permission many times too, giving ourselves permission to pause and take a break and check in with ourselves. And that when we do that, I think we all do get much more done. I think it's that getting out of autopilot can really shift how productive we actually are in the moments when we're productive and not productive. And it reminds me that I have a friend who I worked with around mindfulness and just sort of living more mindfully. And she would talk about the sort of extremes of like rest and productivity and light and dark and quiet and noise and spending time with people and spending time alone. And that having all of these opposites are really important for our humanness. And she called it living a full spectrum life. And I think what we're tapping into here is that the quiet and the calm and the alone and the mindful are all inherently necessary to all of the other times where we're busy and connected and acting and moving and doing, and that they actually enhance our experience of those.
As always, we'd like to end with some reflection questions for you. How do you think you could apply mindfulness for your productivity?
What could you mindfully do less of?
What do you want to do more of?
And a reminder, not what you think you should want to be doing more of, but what you really want to be doing more of. And inspired by one of Serene's comments, how might life change if you stopped waiting for your to-do lists to be done to start living and instead started living now?
As always, we are so appreciative of you listening. Please follow us, share, leave us stars and reviews. If you work in healthcare, please join us if you haven't already at the mindfulhealthcarecollective.com and our Facebook group by the same name. If you would like to learn more and work with Dr. Shereef, you can reach her at www.serenitywellnessmd.com. And you will also get the link in the show notes. I will also include in the show notes a link to my mindful ebook, Mindful Time, for an interactive guide to reclaiming your time and ways to build mindfulness into your busy day.
And if you're interested, I am offering an upcoming Parenting with Presence short mindful intensive to help you parent with presence and be present in those moments with your children and as a parent, so that you can learn to stop missing the moments and calm down some of the churn and autopilot in your life and become more of the parent that you would like to be. Registration will open October 15th, and the intensive is through November and December, except the holidays.
Thank you so much for joining us, Serene. And for our listeners, please stay on after the sound of the singing bowl for her mindful moment offering.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great. Thank you.
As always, if you want to declutter your mind, be more present, and start truly living your one wild and precious life, come find us at the mindfulhealerspodcast.com.
Work with one of us.
Work with both of us.
Start or uplevel your mindfulness practice.
Discover how mindful coaching can change your life.
Or even better, do both as part of our Mindful Healers programs and retreats. You can find links to find out more about our programs and join our communities at themindfulhealerspodcast.com.
Reach out and get started on your journey to a life better lived today.
The content of this podcast is not meant to be medical or life advice. If you choose to participate in our mindful moments, please do so safely.
Welcome to today's mindful moment. If you choose to participate, plan to do so in a safe space. I'm Serene, and I'm going to be leading the moment today. So allowing yourself to find a comfortable position with your head, neck, and spine aligned and comfortable. And with your arms and legs in a position that feels just right for you. As you allow your mind and your body to become still and quiet, just bringing your attention to the fact that you're breathing. Becoming aware of the movement of the breath as it enters your body and as it leaves your body. With your next inhalation, imagine that you're breathing in peace, calmness, and tranquility. And with your next exhalation, imagine that you're breathing out any tension, anxiety, or discomfort that you may be feeling right now. Inhaling peace, calmness, and tranquility, and exhaling any tension, anxiety, or discomfort that you may be feeling. As you feel your breath flow one after the other in a never-ending, life-giving cycle, I want you to focus on your fingertips, rubbing your thumb against your fingers, gently and slowly, feeling the ridges, feeling the sensations. Do your fingers feel cold? Are they warm? Are there calluses? And as you rub them and feel all of your life's journey flowing between them, inhaling peace, calmness, and tranquility, and exhaling any tension, anxiety, or discomfort. Thoughts may come and they may go, and that's okay. Just focusing on the sensation of being connected to yourself and knowing that our sense of touch, our breath, and all of our other senses are always there for us to access, to be connected in the moment. And now when you're ready, slowly and gently bringing yourself back into the room. Feeling your body in the chair, moving your fingers and your toes, and at your own pace, allowing your eyes to open. Be kind to yourself today. You're absolutely worth it.